Hey guys, I'm Justin Davis from Drone Camps RC. We got some really exciting things happening in the surfing world, so we just wanted to take a few minutes of our time to give you some tips and tricks to help you film better at the beach with your drone. If you're going to film surfing or kiting or windsurfing, these are a few tips that'll help you out. So far we're seeing a lot of really cool videos on the internet coming from Hawaii and around the world. Some really awesome surf photography. So originally we had some awesome DSLRs with telephoto lenses, and then GoPro came into the scene, so we got a new perspective with GoPro, and now we're getting a great new perspective using drones. So surf photography is really taking on a whole new level, and now that we can combine all these different perspectives, we're making some really epic videos. So we just want you to sit back and enjoy some of these tips for your first experience at the beach with your drone. How to care for some of your gear, how to fly in certain conditions, as well as respecting other people on the beach and some of the surfers in the water as well. So a couple different ways to film surfing with your drone. Some people are flying from the beach and some people are flying from boats out over the waves and back at the surfers. So we'll briefly touch on the boat flying, and then we're going to be concerned on the beach side of flying. So sit back and enjoy. So most people are going to be filming from the beach. The first day when they show up, they're going to show up at the beach. They're most likely not going to be showing up with a boat out past the breakers. So what we're mostly going to talk about today is filming from the beach. When you go to the beach, make sure that when you approach a crowd, if you're in any major metropolitan area, such as Jersey Shore, Rockaway Beach, California beaches that are super populated, make sure that you are first of all away from any crowds. You want to make sure that you're not flying over, directly over top of a bunch of families and umbrellas and dogs and kids and whatever. So get with your group of friends and talk to your friends when you go out. Make sure that they know you're going to film them, and set up an idea and a plan. So go way down the beach. If you can get a couple hundred yards away from any crowds, get to a more remote section of the beach. That's probably a better place to fly from, so that you have a good buffer between you and the crowd. One of the other things you want to make sure is that where you're at, it's not Park Service property. Make sure that it's an area that you know that other people have already flown, and that you're familiar with this area. So if you're on vacation somewhere, you want to check around and try to find some other people that have drones, because there's a lot of people now that have them that are showing up at the beach. So ask around, and do some homework before you show up. Okay, so when you do get to the beach, we're going to go through a few things that are going to help you out when you show up. One of the things that I like to bring out to the beach is my Pelican style case, and this is a good case for the beach because it's waterproof, and a lot of sand can get into your case normally. So if you have a nice tight sealing case, that'll keep a lot of sand and debris out of your case. The next thing you want to think about is there's a company in California called Liquipel. If you go to liquipel.com, you can contact those guys, and they can actually give you a quote for actually waterproofing with a nano coat some of the electronics in your drone. So if you do dunk it, it does go in the ocean or in a swimming pool or the water or wherever, that it's coated and secured so you don't fry your electronics. We've already lost one drone in the ocean, so we know all about that. The other thing that you want to bring to the beach, very important, is some little piece of plywood to launch and land on. It's very important that you have something that's going to be a stable, flat surface for you to launch off of, because sand in these motors are really, really bad. And you can really seize up a motor or burn up an ESC with landing in the sand or tipping over in the sand. So really, I mean, we've launched off of all kinds of things. We've launched off the top of our trucks. We've launched off of pieces of plywood, board bags, surfboards, whatever you can find that's going to be a nice flat surface. And the next thing that you want to bring out there, this is kind of crucial for your filming. If you can't see what you're doing with your FPV monitor, you're probably not going to get the best shots, and it's going to be really difficult to line up your shots when somebody's going down the line on a wave. So bring yourself a nice visor for your FPV monitor. If you're filming off your iPad, sometimes people will wear polarized sunglasses. That sometimes help. But a good visor on top of your, right over top of your monitor will help you a lot. Keep a sunshade so you can see what you're actually doing. And a lot of times when we do film, I like to sit on the ground, low to the ground, film and watch my FPV, and then also keep a line of sight on my drone while I'm filming so that I see other things around it. You want to be able to see if somebody's coming down the beach with a kite from the left or the right, or you're maybe getting too low and there's some spray coming off a wave. You want to try to avoid that. Okay, so now that you're set up and you're ready to fly out over the water for the first time, one of the major things that you want to keep in mind when you're filming surfing with a drone is your altitude. You want to keep your altitude on your mind at all times. Looking at your FPV, if you have telemetry, you can tell exactly how high up you are by looking at the altitude and the distance away from the home point. So one thing is, don't get too far out there, don't go whale watching, and don't get too low to the water. One of the things that we want to give you a tip on is the spray zone. Out in the surf, there's going to be a certain amount of spray coming up off the waves in the drop zone of the waves. So anywhere inside that zone, you might have a 15 to 20 foot spray zone, depending on how big the waves are. If you're filming in Hawaii where there's 15, 20 foot waves, the spray zone could be up towards to 30 feet or more. So take in consideration where you're filming. If you're just filming 2 to 3 foot waves, say some East Coast waves, you can be 15 to 20 feet up and be well out of the spray zone. So keep in mind, the spray zone is going to be the spray of water that comes off the back of the waves as they're coming in. So if this hits your drone and covers your drone in salt water, it's not going to be good for your drone. So make sure you stay well out of the spray zone. Give yourself, look at the wave height. Say if the wave is 5 feet, go 15 feet up, 15 to 20 feet up. Try not to get too low. A lot of times also when you're filming, you want to be out in front of the waves so that you're out of the spray zone as you're going along and filming. So let's talk about the best shots you can get with your drone for surfing. Some of the best shots that we've seen around the world are those classic shots of the follow along with the surfer. Now the drones can get in a lot closer than your average, your typical standard full-size helicopter. We're able to get in nice and tight on the surfer as they're going down the line. One of the things to think about is definitely, like we talked about before, the spray. Also lining up your shots. You want to make sure that you're in good and have a good speed along with the surfer. If you get left behind, they can outrun you pretty quickly, especially if you're using a Phantom 2. You got about 35 miles an hour with that drone, and surfers can get moving pretty fast as the wave progresses. So one of the things you want to think about when you're filming your first surfing video is don't just fill up your memory card with surf shot after surf shot, riding a wave, riding a wave, riding a wave. You want to cut from riding a wave to seeing shots around the beach. And when you get your introduction started, be sure to use your drone as a Steadicam and do some preliminary early on shots of the beach and some close-up shots, as well as doing some high wide shots of the whole beach, so you can kind of set the scene before all the surfing starts. So that's just a few ways that people are getting really good videos, some of the best shots out there. Now we want to talk about depth perception. So when you're filming with a drone and you have a subject and the drone is between you and the subject, you're going to get some really skewed perspectives of depth perception. So when the surfer is going down the line and the helicopter's right in front of them, it might be 25 feet from the person, but from your perspective it's going to look like the drone is right on top of them as it's going across. So make sure that you pay close attention to your telemetry so that you know that you're 15 feet up off the surface of the water, that you're you're a good altitude, and try not to get too close to the subject to get that magic shot that we're all looking for. Just be really careful that you give good proper distance between you and the surfer and the wave. So you don't want your drone to become a casualty of the ocean like has happened to us, because it gets pretty expensive really fast and it's not recoverable unless you have it liquid-propelled. So and you have some floats on it. So give good distance between you and the surfer and the wave, and you should be fine. So now we're going to talk about filming your first wave. Now that you're flying a drone and you have a FPV monitor there and you have a new perspective on the ocean and the waves, you've got a unique bird's eye perspective of the swells coming in. So you can see what's coming before some of the surfers in the lineup see it. So if there's a rogue wave coming and one of the best set waves is coming up, you can see it in the lineup coming. So before they even start to paddle, you should be able to look and see where that wave is, and they're all going to start paddling toward it once that wave comes up. Once you see them paddling, go ahead, and this is when you're going to get set up and ready to take off to get some speed up for when the surfer drops in on the wave. So once the surfer's dropped in on the wave, if you're not already moving, you're probably not going to be able to keep up with the surfer unless you have a really fast drone. So what we want to do is, you want to have this drone, you want to have it already moving as fast as you can get it going, and have your camera on the subject as he's paddling into the wave. It's going to be a much better looking, smoother shot if you already have your drone moving as this guy's taking off on the wave. So as he's taking off on the wave, you want to be on a full tilt. Go in front of him. If you can stay in front of him, that's great. If you can't and he passes you, that's fine. Just keep in mind the spray coming off the back of the wave. Keep going, and as he exits the wave, go ahead and come back up to a comfortable altitude and go back out and start looking for your next surfer to catch a wave to film. So that's pretty much it. And depending on what perspective you want, you can also follow behind on the back side of the wave, and you can go along facing the beach, which makes a nice perspective that people haven't really seen a lot of before. So there's a lot of different angles you can get. From behind, you can get out in front of them and follow, coming backwards behind the wave. So experiment and try different angles. But what you want to make sure you do is make sure you have enough speed, because the surfers will definitely outrun you really quickly. So as they're coming into it, can't stress enough, make sure you have that setup speed and keep it going. Okay, now we're going to talk about filming with a drone and surf etiquette. A lot of people that are showing up at the beach nowadays with their drones, they're not really from the surfing world or the surfing industry, and they don't really know the etiquette out in the water. So the surf etiquette out in the water also applies to the beach. So you want to make sure that you respect people on the beach as well as in the water. If you see a guy out there getting a little bit aggro and getting a little mad and splashing around in the water when you fly by him, or he's flipping off your bird, flipping the bird to your drone, you probably want to get away from that guy because he's a little irritated. So make sure that you're aware of people in the water. If you don't see him and he comes up to give you a piece of his mind on the beach, be ready for that, be courteous, and be as nice as possible. Tell them that you're sorry and that you won't do it again, whatever. Try not to make any aggressive moves, because in the surfing world it's definitely a territorial thing. Sometimes when people are surfing at different spots, they might be locals, so treat the locals with respect and they'll treat you with respect as well. So don't step on any toes on any beaches anywhere, whether you're a local or not. So with that said, fly with courtesy for others, and definitely respect others on the beach and in the water as well, and they'll treat you with respect as well. So one of the most important things that you keep in mind when you're flying on the beach, and beaches around the world get really hot, so you want to make sure that you give rest in between your batteries. So when you bring your copter back home, you have a hot battery, pull it out, put it in the shade, let your copter cool off, because the ESCs inside the helicopter and maybe the main board, some other components that are electronic, they got a lot of voltage running through them, so let them cool off. We like to give like 10 minutes between per battery. If it's a really hot day, maybe give it a little longer time if you can stand it. I've heard of guys out there on the beach with 6 or 7 batteries and just flying them one after another. Not a good idea when you're out on the beach and it's 80 to 90, 95 degrees on the beach. You want to give a good amount of time for your copter to cool off between batteries. Very, very important, so that you don't get an ESC short out while you're out over the water. So with all of that said, all those tips and those tricks and guidelines to go by, now go out and make the most awesome surf videos we've ever seen. The surfing industry is blowing up around the world with the new innovations from DSLR, mirrorless cameras, GoPro, and now we have the innovation of drones. So we're really excited to see what you're going to do. Post it on our Facebook page, share it with us, email us a link, or contact us however you can. We really like to see what you're doing. It's a fresh and unique perspective. So thanks again for watching the Drone Camps RC channel. I'm Justin Davis. Please subscribe.